So there I was, sitting at home in front of a computer screen, my mind racing. What the hell was I going to write my senior speech about? I volunteered at Friendship Circle in the food bank, been on chapter board at NCSY, kind of at least. All the usual suspects. But I can't honestly say that any of my experiences there changed my life. There's any number of beautiful stories I could tell you about my baby sister and her struggles, but that stuff is personal. I went to summer camp a few times and hated it. The various speech ideas flitted in and out of my head, each temporarily folding its wings and settling before flying off for good. I jumped up in anger, knocking over my chair as I strode away. Why couldn't I think of anything? To calm myself, I did what I've done a million times. That is, grabbed a book off the shelf. I was aiming for Pride and Prejudice, my favorite novel, but I misfired slightly, ended up with a children's dictionary, a large and thin red book. Normally, I would have just thrown the book over my shoulder and proceeded to read Pride and Prejudice for the 1000th time. But for whatever reason, I cracked open this kid's book, and inscribed on the first page, I saw a few sentences that affected me greatly. They read, "Dearest Dani, words are the best, and literature is often preferable to life." It was signed Grandma Tammy, January 2001. I'll come back to the quote soon. First, a few words about myself. As all of my friends and family know, I love to read. Actually, it's a bit of an understatement. You know when people ask whether one eats to live or lives to eat? Well, I fall into a third category, which is I live to read. The first book I remember reading was Captain Underpants. The last book I remember reading was Perks of Being a Wallflower. In between lies a heaping pile of novels, biographies, and plays, including Gone with the Wind, half of Macbeth, and about 1/15 of War and Peace. I wish I could come up with a single unifying reason for my love of reading. Perhaps it's a type of escapism, a way to retreat from real life. But I'm not really shy anymore, and I read as much today as I did when I was a beautiful 12-year-old. Is it a thirst for knowledge, a grasp at an encyclopedic mind? I don't think so. I like knowing things, I guess, but I'm not exactly the game show trivia type. If an answer to this question exists at all, it is the following: I want to write. Simple, you say, put a pen to paper. But it's never been quite that simple for me. Even back when I was 5 or 6, when kids my age were writing adventure stories about their dogs and spinning fantasy yarns about their cat and a princess, I wasn't really able to write. This is not to say I did not want to. In fact, nothing has ever fascinated me more than writing, than actually creating literature. But I've always been paralyzed by the belief that nothing I write could live up to the literature I love. So anytime I thought about writing something, what did I do? Read another book. Back when I was reading Captain Underpants, the thought wasn't very coherent. It was more of a feeling, a hunch that I just wasn't as funny as the writer of this masterpiece. But as I grew older, the hunch added detail and nuance to its hulk, growing alongside me and guaranteeing that I would not try to write. A good example is Common Sense by Thomas Paine. The essential document of the American Revolution is simple but detailed, logical and incendiary at the same time, and simply breathtaking in its dissection of the oppressive British government. Common Sense literally caused the American Revolution. How could I rival that? I couldn't. The more books I read, the more fearful I became of writing. I absorbed genius and placed it on a pedestal. Books stacked in front of me presented an insurmountable peak. On the other side lay that pen and paper and the chance to create literature, not just interact with it. But I couldn't do it. My grandma's words have proved nearly prophetic. Back in 2001, when I was only 6 years old, she knew that I would be a reader. She said words are the best, and don't get me wrong, I agree. C.S. Lewis once said, literature adds to reality, it does not simply describe it. I believe in this. Literature is crucial to the world. I encourage everyone I know to read as much and as often as they can, as I surely will continue to do so myself. However, in my case, it is time to move on from exclusively dealing with the words of others, as much as the break will hurt. Literature has enriched my life, but my love for books has prevented me from writing my own. I want to move past this creative disability and this fatal flaw. I don't know if I'll write political speeches, muckraking nonfiction, or simply a novel that makes people happy. Regardless, I think that I can change the world with my writing. But I'll never do it if I spend the rest of my life hiding behind a book.